Yeah. Hello, everyone. So, going live from Delhi, like the situation here. Things are quite messed up with pollution, COVID, and everything. And the most vulnerable section, our children, are being impacted because of the pollution here in Delhi. So today we'll be discussing about how pollution has impact on children, long term, short term, on their development, on their education, and that's why we all are here. And yeah, so we'll start with a conversation, like just a generic conversation. How are we feeling? All feeling about the current scenario in Delhi? Not Delhi, but the northern region, Punjab, Haryana, and Delhi.
Well, the country itself, I mean, all
Yeah,
over.
the country itself.
So I'll begin. I mean, I was traveling to Delhi last week, and so it happens with me whenever I'm away from Delhi for quite a number of months. Like last time I visited Delhi was in February, and now I visited in October, so it was almost 9 months. Um, Whenever I do that, the moment I enter Delhi, I have this itch in my throat. It just comes there, and if I talk for long, then I just start coughing because there is this. I can feel that there is some particulate matter deposited in my voice box, and it remains there. The same thing happened in 2016, 2017 January, actually, when I came back from Denmark to Delhi after almost 10 months. I hadn't even landed, so the aircraft was circling the airport, and you could still feel that in my throat. And in January this year, again, when I came back from Japan, the same thing happened. So you can go out and then come back to Delhi to realize what actually is the problem, because the pollution doesn't go away. In fact, it just keeps increasing. So I don't have asthma, I don't have bronchitis, but people who do, well, for them it's going to be really, really bad.
Thank you, Saurabh, for sharing your experience. Like you've shared a couple of your experience of being Delhi. You put up in Jalandhar. Do you feel something similar in Punjab also, like in Jalandhar? Like how are things there? I would love to hear. Like we hear a lot about Delhi, but we forget that the origin is from those regions. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, I mean, we keep on talking about Delhi a lot, but even if you see the pollution index or the ranking of the cities, I think 6 or 7 out of the top 10 polluted cities in the world, they're from India. And I think out of those 6 to 7 cities, 4 to 5 are from North India. Fortunately, none of them are from Punjab, but yes, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh. And it's not even the cities which are close to Delhi, like Meerut or Ghaziabad. Yes, they are extremely polluted. Noida is extremely polluted. Gurgaon is very polluted. But it's city like Moradabad, Kanpur, Allahabad, which have even higher, sometimes higher levels of particulate matter in the air as compared to Delhi also. In Punjab, Punjab is definitely responsible for this seasonal smogging which happens in Delhi. Partly responsible for that. The reason for that is the burning up of the agricultural waste after the harvest of paddy. So the farmers, just to save money, what they would do is they would, once you harvest a crop, there is this stubble which is left over. So they will not, cut the stubble, or because you have to hire labor to do that, it costs money. And they will not use machines again because machines cost money to rent. They will just burn the field, and that smoke reaches Delhi inadvertently. Why it reaches Delhi, I'm no meteorologist, but I know Western disturbances start happening from October onwards. So, there are winds which are coming from northwest into India. Maybe that is one of the reasons why that smoke just travels south towards Delhi. And the similar thing happens in Haryana as well. But Punjab is very, very much responsible in this.
Thank you, Saurabh, for sharing it in details and explaining it to everyone how it happens. Priyank, you've had a similar experience. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, how are you like feeling the pollution in the environment?
I think, see, it's a given, and we all understand that pollution is not good for health, especially when children in an age where their cognitive abilities grow faster. If you expose them to pollution, there are a lot of studies which will tell you that it is not a good idea and it will hamper the cognitive development. And now the problem is that, okay, no, we understand pollution exists. It is only getting worse. Smoke है आगे आगे बढ़ने वाला है. And then of course winter thing makes the matter more worse. But the problem is, how do we respond? I think we understand that it is not good for our children. People understand कि भाई अच्छा नहीं है, but what do they do about it? Do they go and into public transports? Do they avoid taking their own vehicles? Because one person driving one vehicle, everybody wants to go in a car, avoiding the public transport is again, somewhere contributing to the air pollution. Plus now we have Diwali coming. I'm just wondering अब क्या होगा, because you can't say कि भाई don't celebrate Diwali. You don't want to say you don't celebrate Diwali. You just want to say that don't burn the firecrackers. But again, people will, some segment will try to say that one particular festival of one religion is being attacked, things like that. So as per, you cannot stop people. Those people will do, have to do. They will do still do it. But I think more or less what we need to think about is that as people who come from some education background or have some understanding, where do we put it to use, and with through that education, how do we respond to a pollution filled Delhi's crisis?
Okay. Thank you, Priyank, for sharing. Praneet, I would like to know from you, like, do we have something similar kind of situation in, southern states? What's the scenario there? Because in North, it's very, very evident. It's much in media also. But what about, the southern states of India?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about statistics and stuff, number wise, but I stayed in Ahmedabad for a while. With very similar situation where you're just like a dense cloud and you can feel that sort of loss of breath and things like that, even before COVID happened. I think it's comparatively better. However, as Priyank pointed out, everybody wants to have a car, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things like that comes in where you're like, I need a car, and now I'm not going to care about the world and stuff like that. It's more social than anything else. It feels, and it's not a wrong. It's like ethics and morals, I guess. But um, I think in Bangalore, especially, the situation's a little worse than it is in other places that I've been to here. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, there are studies, but it's not a huge factor when it comes to not sending your child to school or something like that. I'm sure illnesses happen, but it's not like a chronic thing where people are like, hey, I'm you know, going to not go to school for a long time. I've never come across a situation where that's happened, but I think it's super important to deal with, especially since they have neurodegenerative effects, having particulate matter in the surroundings around us. I think it's important to talk about it. So yeah, not
Okay.
just synthesizing, not as bad as what I've experienced up north, but it's far better, but it's still bad and it's getting worse. I think COVID sort of eased it to an extent, where people were on lockdown and things like that were imposed. But hey, at least everybody's wearing a mask, so that sort of helps them with respect to respiratory problems as well, not just COVID. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Praneet, for bringing that point. Like definitely we need to talk about pollution, and especially when it comes to the development of children being the most like development of children, considering they're the most vulnerable section that is getting impacted by the pollution. So I just want to hear from you, like, can somebody explain how pollution impacts the child development in short and longer run both? Like anybody can start.
So
I,
um,
I, I,
there are a lot of different types of pollution actually, which we need to talk about, because I mean, we're just not talking about air pollution over here. When we talk about cognitive growth or just stunted growth also, which is a big problem. India is the leader again in that in the world now. um, when you have any pollutant, it kind of creates a malicious strain inside the entire development growth. If you talk about air pollution, children are when you smoke, when you inhale smoke, which is equivalent to a pack of cigarettes, starting from the age which is very very young, it's bound to impact your stamina, it's bound to impact your concentration levels. In fact, there was another sub research that I don't know if it's called sub research or not. If there was another correlated research which I read a few days ago, which said that children having asthma and bronchitis problems or breathing problems, they uh, they are more susceptible to be stressed. So they get stressed easier as compared to other people. When we talk about uh, pollution in food, pollution in water, and other aspects, whether it contains traces of metal, arsenic, lead, or whether it is synthetic, dairy products. For example, in Diwali this time, Captain Amrinder Singh, the Chief Minister of Punjab, he called a meeting of all the sweets makers in the state, urging them not to use synthetic khoya, which is synthetic fat of milk, and synthetic butter to make, to prepare all these sweets. One of the reasons that why he said that is because it actually decreases the immunity that you have in your body, and during COVID times you need more immunity. So just imagine, if you're consuming that throughout your life, your immunity levels are going to be really really bad. So if they are bad, automatically it leads to a lot of problems. You are not able to focus, you are missing school, you are your performance is generally lower, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. Priyank, would you like to talk about the long-term impact of pollution on children in terms of economic perspective?
Economic perspective in terms of children.
How does it impact our economy in longer run when children are getting impacted in shorter run?
Okay, so I think see, when you're talking about, there are multiple ways to look at it, but when you're talking about pollution any kind affecting children, and you're talking about how it is going to lead to some cognitive disability, or let's say some is not going to support children's development, then we are essentially telling that the people who are the kind of future of our country, or let's say future of even the globe, are somewhere not getting the kind of environment which they need. You can relate it to, let's say, you put a child in a shabby classroom, and you, how much ever good teacher you have in the classroom, but if the environment is not conducive, the child cannot perform. If the imagine a classroom which is stinging, high time, the child, how does the child concentrate, or which is littered or filthy or whatever. So I think in that respect, if you see, it affects the child in margins, and understand, like not able, that we cannot definitely understand. But why I say so is, see, the long term effect is not visible with apparent straight away. Today you see pollution is there, you don't see how in the long term it will affect, so we have to do something about it. Children get affected, there is it affects their study patterns, affect their understanding of everything, and their cognitive this thing. But since we don't see a very apparent effect of it, immediate effect of it, we don't do a lot about it, but it definitely affects the society, the children, the family, and in fact the country as well.
Okay. Anything, Praneeth, that you would like to add to these points?
No, I think just summing it up in a way. I think a lot of whatever research has been done, whatever papers have been gone through, have just talked about the impacts of early life exposure, which is basically talking about infants, actually prenatal as well, which lead to neurodegeneration because there's because of the particulate matter, and because of even something like asbestos is a big thing back in, because they used to make roofs out of asbestos, and that used to really impact the way children would learn. Things like that sort of impair their growth And as just adding on to what Priyanka said, the short-term impacts are not seen, so people don't consider it as grave or as much of a problem as something which in the long term. So I think early childhood exposure to all this, uh, he plays a humongous role, and I feel like we should really look into it. Yeah, positive comment.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your views. So next,
Nasreen, what are your views? You should also share
Yeah.
them.
yeah, so I'm coming to that. Like, so I was just reading the UNICEF report. Like every year, like 9,20,000 children are killed because of pollution. That's one of the major reasons why children are dying, because they get prone to pneumonia, bronchitis, and other lungs diseases, which is a huge number. And I think that sums up everything that what we've said, that it impacts the development of the child, it limits their learning, it limits the brain development, it diminishes their concentration, and in longer term it has the impact. And as Priyank mentioned, and in shorter term, that we're not able to see the implications of the pollution, but in longer, I mean, we see when the child is already developed these problems, we stop talking about it. So that's like my views on that. Next, I just, as like educators, like we've engaged with children at every level. I just want to hear like the stories of how in your experiences, how pollution has impacted the learning outcomes of children. Learning outcomes.
So learning outcome, I think it's a question which is very connected to the previous one. Um, Whatever learning outcomes, whether the school sets them or whether the children sets them themselves, they are going to be impacted by the fact that if you're, again, I mean, I think I've answered this before as well. If you are not able to focus because your body is weak, then obviously the learning outcome is going to be less than expected in the longer term, and you might not even be able to explain why it happened. So for example, I'll take a analogy over here. um, a friend of mine, she was diagnosed with typhoid. I mean, she's a resident of Kanpur. So Kanpur is one of the biggest cities in, like, one of the bigger cities in India, and industrial town. So she was diagnosed with typhoid or cholera at a very young age. All right, I think she was in fourth or fifth. Now, at that particular time, steroids were particularly popular in India. Whenever there was typhoid or something like this, which was given to children. So she was given some really strong dose, and because of that, her body got imbalanced. She had some hormonal imbalance, because of which she can never really completely lose weight and become slim, no matter what she does. All right. Now that is a long-term impact, which impacts her self-esteem, which impacts the way she will ever think of any particular career wherever your personality is related, right? So all those things will be impacted. In fact, I myself have something similar. I was diagnosed with typhoid when I was in fifth standard, and I was given some medicine. Before that, I used to be this skinny guy, and after that, I could never ever be completely skinny. Like the skinniest I have been, even then, my weight was, I think, 2 or 3 kgs more than the BMI index. Similar thing is with pollution. The third largest cause of deaths in the country today is air pollution, and you don't immediately die if you're breathing in that air. It will happen gradually, and they are related aspects, like if you have asthma or bronchitis, or if you have lead poisoning, or if you have any other kind of poisoning, then those things will lead to other diseases like stress, and other lifestyle related diseases. So the learning outcome will be affected, because most of the time you're dealing with something which you can't even control. That's what my perspective is.
Yeah. Thank you, Saurabh, for sharing. Like, I was wondering why children are like more impacted is another reason, because children have the tendency to breathe very fast, like faster than the adults. due to which they're able to absorb more pollutants inside them. And as a result, it impacts them more. And probably they're shorter, like smaller children are shorter to the ground, due to which the dust particles enter uh, more rapidly than the adults. So these are the two other reasons why air pollution impacts children more than the adults. Um, so when I was teaching, like I was teaching when last year when the schools were shut in Delhi due to pollution, and I think it had a major impact on the way children learned. For 10 days, schools were shut because the pollution level in the city was at like this at the peak, and which straight away meant 10 days of no schooling. We couldn't go to the community, we couldn't go to the learning center to take the after school because it was really bad. And at the same time, I like after the school resumed, the classroom attendance dropped severely. Like out of the 40 children, 25 children would turn up with again other problems like breathing, headache, fever. I think for 1 month it took a lot of time for us, as a classroom to adjust to the situation. Like these are the small incidences I'm quoting how it impacts the classroom, like the classroom culture. Like 1 month of pollution, kids not turning up, kids getting caught up with diseases. 1 month of no learning. Like in Delhi, we like Delhi is one city where we have least number of learning days, and and pollution added more to the problem. With 1 month of no learning, even when the schools were open, we couldn't have a conducive environment, all thanks to the pollution. And I think pollution impacted the way learning outcomes, uh, learning how learning outcomes were in my classroom. Like we did not have good results that particular month. Children were not able to study, they did not sit for their unit tests, their formative exams, and that's how it impacted how learning in the classroom looked like. Anybody who has a similar kind of experience?
Yeah, do you want to say something?
I think there's a question on the portal. If you want, I can
Yeah.
read out that. So Raj is asking, do you feel that children are actually getting sensitized through the existing education system on the causes and problems of pollution?
So I would like to answer like this year, being working directly with teachers in public education system, this year the sensitization has been less because more focus is given to COVID and the safety measures pertaining to that. But last year we had certain measures and programs in the school to educate children about pollution and how they can take care, but that was also futile in the way it was implemented. Like students were definitely distributed masks, but they just wore it for 1 or 2 days, and after that they did not feel comfortable with those masks and they were not wearing that. And the training and the awareness was just related to teachers coming and giving them masks and just saying 1 or 2 words. The actual sensitization, when we talk about actually sensitizing and education, there's a difference. So when we talk about educating children about pollution and just spreading awareness, there's a different difference in that. In like one way can be just going in the classroom and saying ये करना है वो करना है, that's one aspect. But the other aspect, you go to the root problem and how it impacts the children, the teachers being trained about how to carry out these awareness programs for the children, and a proper methodology is followed in the classroom. That certainly was not followed. And despite pollution reaching an extreme level, um, we had children burning crackers, we had children uh, celebrating Diwali burning crackers. There was no use, there was no impact of those programs.
I think I'll just quickly add a couple of points. Also, in addition to what Justine had said, kids have the peak neuroplasticity of their brains are peak as children, and as you grow to 20 and 30 is when you actually it becomes stable. So that's when, if something happens or if you are struck with a disease, uh, it hits your head, it hits your brain directly, and pun not intended. It literally goes to your head. So the impairment starts there, and there is your root cause. That's what happens most of the time. Also, I think again, I think we brought this topic, and it's a topic of discussion that's happened before as well. I think working with kids works, but I think it's the community that really pushes them at the end. So talking to parents about financial management, for example, or pollution and conservation, I think those are topics that we should sort of take to the parents, which are a little more concerning on a macro scale. So I think that's what we try to do as well, at least in the 2 years that I could. But another observation that I had was, um, I don't, I couldn't behaviorally decide why the kids were happy and why the kids were not. But there was some sort of fidgetiness for kids that I taught in Ahmedabad, but not particularly the same where I went to rural Telangana and taught for some time. Over there, everybody was like chill. There are no vehicles there. Everybody goes to like bullock carts stuff. That's pretty cool. But it's damn chill, and people like have no worries, and there's nothing. So maybe things, this sort of like indirect factors or pointers that show that it's also a quality of life sort of thing, where pollution sort of helps, and lack of pollution there also. But, yeah, that's all I have to say or experience.
I think what just she's clarifying one thing, that she was asking about systematic sensitization of the students in pan India perspective. Of course, a small number of schools might be doing it with themselves. So what her question most probably is that, is it really a part of the curriculum per se? Is it really part of the school's functioning that they sensitize children and, if possible, their parents on something like pollution?
So what I was mentioning, that was systemic only. So the orders were delivered by Delhi government that each and every school will
No,
have. No,
were
it's
the
not part
orders
of the
due to
curriculum.
the
It is
political
not part.
level?
It is
No,
not
were
part
the
of the curriculum. Yeah, coming to that, it is not part of the curriculum. Like we need to sensitize. Like we do have EVS and science chapters related to that. So it depends on teacher how they teach. But when it comes to properly training children about environment and pollution, because we are in that scenario, there's no proper curriculum related to that. When the situation was at peak, there were certain programs that were designed for Delhi government schools, and teacher was supposed to sensitize children about that, and that just to 1 or 2 sessions. There were no particular curriculum delivered to that. They were given few guidelines that they were supposed to communicate to the students, but nothing which can have a long-term impact on children. Masks were distributed in the schools. That's one measure that Delhi government took last year. Every child was given a mask, and they were even told that in case there's an emergency, where and whom they can contact to. These are certain measures, like systemic measures that were taken, but we don't have a curriculum to educate children about it. I hope it answers her question.
Another thing is coming to my mind. Pollution, when pollution happens, see, come what may, holidays happen and children are happy. At least छुट्टियां मिलती हैं. That let's say एक हफ्ते की 2 हफ्ते की the schools are shut and the government announces it. So in a way, children enjoy it. It brings back to the fundamental question of what is school for and what do we give them. In that, in fact, the other day I was thinking that you know the lockdown has happened, 3 months children have not gone to school. What did they miss most about the school? Did they miss those math classes? Did they miss those science subjects, concepts, or did they miss peer interaction or sports or whatever? What exactly about school did they really like? So if something like pollution is bringing some with it holidays and children do enjoy having, I of course understand system से थोड़ा अलग होता है तो कोई भी enjoy करेगा, but what do children actually go for, and what is that which the children miss the most when they don't go to when they didn't go to school in lockdown?
I think one more thing that's coming in my mind is like all things. You mentioned about kids rejoicing that there's a holiday. I'd like to, as much as I don't want to, I think teachers would also be. They'd be happy that hey, it's a holiday, even though that's not the case. So that also is a way to show that it's not that big a deal, that people are not considering it to be that big a deal in terms of hey, it's an issue. Hello, 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 hello.
Yeah,
Am I
audible.
audible?
Yeah, we can hear you. Your video is stuck, but we can hear you. I think we've lost him. Matlab, we lost the connection. Jocelyn, you can continue.
Yeah, like last I just answered. He's back. Praneet, you want to continue?
Hello. Yeah. I was just saying. I think like even teachers don't consider it to be that big a deal, and it's a holiday nonetheless. So I don't know where sensitization should start. Should it start with teachers? Should it start with kids in the community? Because I mean, again, if somebody's not passionate about something like XYZ, then there's no intrinsic motivation to actually go ahead and educate other people about it. Like you're morally or you're professionally obliged to teach them math, science, and etc. etc. But I don't think from a sensitization perspective, I think it should start from a whole different route and then work towards kids. Otherwise, I don't see it happening anytime soon. Again, another way would not be to tackle education, would make really stringent laws, like maybe a cracker ban, for example, or that whole wet and dry waste thing. Things like that can also have some impact, and then come back to its roots, come back to education. So I don't think. I think sensitization, we're far from it, especially in terms of the environment and pollution. But yeah, I think we should.
I also feel, there's a difference. I feel that students are sensitized to a large extent. I mean, if I take a personal example, when I was in 8th standard, I took a pledge not to, use firecrackers, and I still don't. All right. So children are sensitized, but I think it's the society outside the school, which doesn't allow them to, practice what they want to. So when there is peer pressure from students, when there is pressure from their relatives, I know like the business communities in North India, especially on Diwali, they have bumper sales, a lot of profit. So what they would do is like if you sold like 10 lakh rupees worth of merchandise, they won't mind spending 50,000 rupees of that profit on firecrackers. They will just not. They will just go to the shop and buy 50,000 worth of rupees worth of firecrackers. So when your parents are doing that, when your elder cousins are doing that, it hardly matters what happens at school and what pledge you took in school. So children are sensitized, but then there is no outlet for that sensitization to actually come and manifest itself.
Yeah, I think Saurabh and Praneeth, you've made a great point. Like, I was also thinking on the same lines. Like, we do educate children about pollution, we do educate children about environment and taking measures. But when the society is operating in a certain way and the community is behaving in a certain way, they're bound to be impacted by those measures because they spend like 4 to 5 hours a day in the school, and the rest 20 hours are spent in that community, in that family, where people don't really understand the importance of conserving environment, the importance of not bursting crackers. There is pressure from, like, there is like peer pressure, and they see their parents burning woods and using uh, like other ways of cooking food, like alternative ways of cooking food using those old measures. So they're bound to see that, and and whatever you teach children in the school, that gets neutralized in certain way. So I think I resonate with what Preet said. Like there has to be like we can't put children in every, like we can't pressurize children of being the leaders or the, like in every aspect कि कुछ gender है तो we need children to come ahead, अगर climate है we need, like how we can educate the community as whole is one thing that we need to you know think about. I know it is challenging, but how can we make sure that the learning is happening from outside to inside rather than inside to outside? So that's one perspective that I have here.
I would like to add to that actually, and people keep talking about like what Jasleen said. We cannot really put all the onus on children, especially in a hierarchical society like ours, hierarchical, patriarchal, and then all the other nice things. So in that situation, children have no say. So they have no say in choosing their career. Do you think they have say in telling their parents what to do and what not to do? It's not going to happen. And for a country like ours, where even though like literacy rates are very not very good, then secondly, what do you mean by the quality of literacy in the country? Again, is a separate thing. And thirdly, when you have people who enjoy flouting rules, the only way to get this done is if you have stringent implementation of laws, and it's all dependent on political will again. So whenever like you talk about systemic change will only come because of political will. If the politicians are agreeing, like before COVID they changed the driving laws again, right? They increased the fines, right? And did that stop people from not drinking and driving? Probably not a lot, but at least now those laws are there and people have some fear about it. Till the time you have stronger laws and you start implementing them, nothing is really going to change. So when it comes to that is the position. And I think it sounds very ominous, but or cynical in that way.
I think, yeah, like I totally agree that you've made an important point. And I was just thinking, being an educator, like whatever we want to start an experiment with the children. Like, why always children? Like, at such a tender age, we want them to behave like adults, like leaders who will bring gender revolution, leader who will bring climate revolution, leaders who will bring this revolution. Like, we need to stop that and, give that liberty, like give that comfort and comfort space to the children also, just to explore by themselves. Like, yeah, as educators you do what is required, you teach children about the pros and the cons, but we can't pressurize everything and put them in forefront of bringing the change.
Absolutely.
There are certain things that has to be systemic. We need to have strong rules, we need to have strong policies, we need to have community intervention. It's very important that we have intervention that are educating people at scale, and not just children who have very little say in their homes.
There's a cultural aspect to it as well. I mean,
Yes.
if we talk about garbage itself, and there are entire communities which basically live off sorting garbage. Now, actually, Bangalore is the only progressive city in this particular manner, because the city of Bangalore has actually recognized garbage collectors. They've given them ID cards. They have much better dignity of life. They're considered professionals and so on. But the rest of the country doesn't really care about it. Why it doesn't happen? All of us understand there are caste differences. People actually want certain people to do that job again and again, even though there is no need per se. Then on top of that, if you talk about North India or the parts of the country where winter is there, which is like North India, Central India, Northeast India, when you have winter and when people cannot afford burning wood or burning fuel, the only thing that they're going to burn is, which is freely available, which is garbage. So certain people's lifestyles are all surrounded because there is pollution, and because pollution actually helps them survive. So when that systemic change and that cultural change has to happen, only then you can talk about, okay, reducing pollution and how it can impact education. So I think it's a much deeper topic than we realize it is.
So when we, I think when we say cultural change and we also talk about laws, I think two wonderful aspects. Laws exist; they'll always exist. and how much ever faith we put in it, still implementation there always be gaps. Now when we go to cultural change again, so we are, we are somewhere thinking I want to bring in DFC here, a wonderful model by Kiran City. Why I want to bring that is somewhere we try to find solutions from a very high end position. And in the schools when you see you give holidays to children, that is fine, but that doesn't mean children will understand the holidays is given for pollution ki to pollution mat karo, you know and they understand ki itna it affects them, so don't do it. Or if you have a chapter in EVS, so it works for them, or koi sensitization process. So how exactly can it be done? Or there are, of course there is some impact, I'm not totally negating the effects of these practices, but I would like to bring in this model, DFC model, where children are the center of a problem. So you give them, you go to the classroom, say suppose there is Delhi, suppose Punjab has a problem with drugs, and Delhi is a problem pollution. Of course other states have similar problems, but so you go to a classroom in Punjab and talk to children of a certain age group that this is the problem we are having, how do we go about solving this, what do we do about it? Children become the action takers. You go to a class in Delhi, and schools in Delhi, why children are not coming out and telling their parents, telling the community that don't move in vehicles, or do things so that it doesn't add to pollution? Why children just sit in the classroom and so our pedagogy as such is about telling the children that ये हो रहा है, इस तरह से हो रहा है, इस तरह से कर लो, this is how it is good, bad, or whatever. But there has to be more of an action-oriented pedagogy, which I'm taking this from DFC model again, not my idea. And this model again is taken up by 32, I think, more than 30 countries across the globe, where they are putting it to in front of the children that this is the current situation, this is the problem which we are having in a state or in a city or whatever. What do you do about it? The children are, designing solutions, they are coming up with campaigns, they are doing a lot of it. So what effectively, I'm not saying that it changes the mindset of people, I'm not arguing that somewhere it totally tells the people that you can't do it, and they totally understand the importance of it, and from tomorrow they don't do it. But I also understand that children have a lot of impact. One, for example, if you see a lot of marketing ads and everything, why children are the center? Because children listen to their parents. So even you see, I have seen people who smoke very frequently don't do it in front of their children, or when they have children, they don't stop doing it or do it very less, not in front of the child. Why? I've seen a dad who used to drive bike very recklessly, but when the kid is with him, he's stopping on red lights only because he doesn't want to set a bad example for the child. So I think the children can be really a change maker in that sense, that they can help when they come in front, they can help people identify in which can be more impactful. Also, we are having a cultural nuance which goes more deeply with children. Not just teaching in the class helps, but if you when children design a solution, they become part of it. So we can effectively say that on the long run, they'll be doing a better job at curbing the whole pollution, any form of.
Yeah, thank you, Priyank, for bringing that great point, design for change. Something that I also tried to include in my pedagogy while I was teaching my kids. So the idea is to so design for change is a kind of concept where we make children like incline children towards problem solving and critical thinking abilities. We expose children to different problems. They pick up a problem that is close to their heart. They design solutions in the group. They come up with innovative ideas, campaign, anything that they want to implement that they feel that can impact their school, their classroom, or the communities, and then they move ahead with that idea. So that's how we nurture our kids with problem solving abilities. And I think it's important that we inculcate children with these kinds of problem solving abilities at this age, so that once they get into the system, they have developed those tendency to pick up, identify problem, pick up and solve them. So that's the kind of approach that we need to inculcate in the curriculum. Thank you, Priyank, for bringing that up. Um, So, also on the other hand, Saurabh mentioned a beautiful point of culture aspect, that how the problems are deeply engraved in the culture. Children, like, even if, like, I, especially the kind of children that I was teaching, they belong to very different kind of cultures. Even if I would tell them to do 10 things, they would go back to their homes, like, look at 10 other things that the community is practicing, in a way that would neutralize the effect of what I was teaching. So it took me a lot of efforts to bring that kind of behavioral change in the children. um, so again, I would just want to hear from you, uh, like how does pollution impact, definitely we have studies supporting that pollution impacts more on, like, pollution has a grave effect on children belonging to weaker section of the society. So I just want to hear more on that, like what your experiences have been. Praneet, I would like to hear how pollution has more impact on children belonging to weaker section of society.
Uh, yeah. I wouldn't know. I only work on a certain section of society, so I don't know what's the change or difference in mindset. But I'd like to imagine that since awareness is not like the utmost priority, or upbringing, for example, but the idea is so that upbringing is not the factor for making decisions or having a mindset for something. Like you shouldn't not know about pollution. You shouldn't not know about uh, things that are plaguing something because of your upbringing or because of your background, whether it's financial or otherwise. So I haven't had any experience, but at least I've tried. Uh, Through it, it worked both. At least the idea was to work both ways, with kids to help kids in that society, and for adults to help adults in that society. And kids lived in different societies, so we tried to, like, spread that something as simple as, hey, wet waste is, it goes in this bin and dry waste goes into that bin. uh, we can, the only thing we can do as a school is to do our part, and educate in a way. At least it seems a little helpless at this point of time. Of course, I'm a little pessimistic when I say that, but yeah, I think with respect to economically weaker sections of society, I think the only problem I see as a barrier to entry would probably be just the awareness to certain things and the impact, uh, having awareness about the impact of the game. I think, as we discussed, the whole FIDS thing, right? Feel, Imagine, Do, Share, the DFC framework is great because anybody can do it. You don't have to be XYZ to do it. So I think having that sort of connect would really help uh, fast forward or scale up our solution process. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, can you repeat the question again? I mean, I missed track.
So I was talking how, pollution has a grave impact on students belonging to like, disadvantaged section of the society. Like when we talk about privileged children, they do have facilities, they have awareness, they have educated parents. But when we talk about these children, the communities are marginalized, they are uneducated, they don't have proper infrastructure or measures. So what do you think? How does it impact them in longer run?
Well, I think I agree with Praneeth over there. Um, I mean, another way what we think is, um, sensitization has to go in a very viral fashion, according to me. It doesn't happen overnight, but Twitter hashtags, they change opinions overnight. So why can't we have sensitization using social media or internet for positivity, right? It's very difficult because behavioral wise also, and studies also show that negative messages do get shared a lot more, and then our special Facebook and Twitter algorithms also support that. But I definitely believe that if more and more content related to this is created, not in a, so whenever I see students making charts and posters about all these things, it's very nice, but deep inside, it's going to be less than useful, right? um I don't want to feel that sense of having that sense of, disappointment when I see children putting in effort. And I think they feel it much more because they are doing something and still they don't see an impact of it. So schools need to get together to create a greater impact. They probably by making them take more pledges, probably by making sure that the city hall or the municipality of the city is is in sync with what the students and the schools are demanding, because most of the time that doesn't happen. Local governance doesn't come into play. So if we can get that to start happening somewhere somehow, then we can probably have more Greta Thunbergs in our country as well. I'm not saying there aren't, there are, but we didn't have the first one, and that's the issue. Indian parents and Indian students, they always need a reference point for some reason. Maybe it's our colonial past or something. um, we need to create more of that. So that's what I definitely feel, because no matter how much we talk about this and how many rallies we take out, how many posters we make.
Oh yeah, dude. Great startup idea. TikTok for social change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that innovation TikTok, where people talk about like they. I think media has not just social media. I think movies in general, movies with like values about all these things are super duper important. Because imagine an Akshay Kumar comes and says something. Teachers don't matter, parents don't matter. It's just like that one idol, that one role model. I think actors are the greatest, one of the greatest assets that we should actually make use of, and TikTok for some reason. Who would have thought? Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I know I attended a couple of webinars organized by Jagran Josh and UNODC. So in that, what they were talking about is how schools during COVID time, before TikTok was banned, how schools were actually making students make TikTok videos as class projects. And UNODC and all these related affiliated organizations, they encourage students making TikTok videos. They make YouTube videos and TikTok videos. So they are definitely trying to get that change happening. But again, since it is, on the fringes, certain organizations came up with some innovation idea. Some schools are doing it in Fagwada. Doesn't really create real change.
I think one thing is that when we talk about the impact of pollution on the marginalized communities, for example, I think we need to look at the compounding effect, the multiplier effect. It is not really about some ppm is there, like some level of pollution is there. Whoever the human is, it will not differentiate and it will impact. But rather the impact per se on different people will be very different because it will compound that way. To understand why I'm using the compounding term, because we understand how compounding works, right? So if you multiply the same 3 with if you multiply 3 with 4, but that will be 12, but if you multiply the same 3 with 10, it will be 30. So it will be huge because it is already 10. So in that way, there is already a lot of issues in factors which is contributing, and when one more factor adds to it, which is the pollution, it impacts them much more than we understand for people who come from a privileged background.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your views. On the closing thought, I just want to hear, like, obviously, systemic change is something when we talk about, but what are the few measures that mothers, like parents, can take in order to protect their children from the pollution? Like, what are the simple measures at home that we all can take to protect our children from these problems? I'm not coming
I
to the
think I'll
systemic
just take
change.
comment from Raji as well. Raji is, I think one question is there as well. She's saying children from low socioeconomic backgrounds are more affected due to malnutrition, again, low health and immunity, congested living conditions, which lack improper sanitation, lack of medical care facilities. Also because of lack of awareness and prevention. So exactly what I was trying to point that, the effect gets multiplied because of other socioeconomic and conditions present. She's also asking, are you saying that we need to wait till children attain 18 years to start giving values? I think this was an earlier comment, but I think this was regarding what Justine told. Not sure.
Can you just repeat the question?
Are you saying that we need to wait till children attain 18 years of age to start giving values?
I'm not really sure. I think what I and Saurabh were trying to
I think when you
say,
say that,
yeah, the children don't have to
yeah,
be like put in forefront every time. So I was
that's right.
just my perspective is coming, through like how, uh, like like lately I've been observing on social media that everywhere we're putting children on the center. Uh, Whenever we see any problem, when it comes to political problem, we create a model, we try to educate children. Whenever there is a pollution problem, the solution that we come is create a project for children. Whenever there is a gender problem that we face in the society, we have it for children. Like everywhere, like the solutions are restricted to children. Like but I was just trying to say that the problem is at a very huge level. Like every time we can't come up with a solution कि हाँ बच्चों को ही ये values देनी है, but there are certain underlying complex problems that needs to be addressed. So I was saying from that perspective, obviously, like we need to educate children about each and everything. We need to make sure that they're inculcating the right values, the right mindset, the right skills. But every solution can't be children. That was my opinion. Sort of like similar opinion or like something like that, something other than that.
No, I agree with that. I think see, schools are changing. In the morning today, I had a session with the three principals, one from Amritsar in Punjab, another from Delhi, and another from Dubai. All right, and we were talking about new age skills for children. In that, there is something called critical reasoning skills. Now, critical reasoning basically means that the student should be able to decipher for himself or herself whether something is appropriate or inappropriate based on the context. And clearly, we are living through issues which are not related to anybody's caste, culture, creed, etc. So, if schools and governing bodies keep pushing the same agenda again and again, nothing is really going to change, right? So whether we put it on the onus on children or not is actually a step which has to be taken later. First is I personally feel is the realization that we are in this together and we are going to die in this together. So it doesn't really matter where you're sitting, inside your home or outside your home. So I mean, in fact, Jasleen, when you asked the question about mothers, what they can teach the children, I don't think they can do it, a lot. I mean, what can you do? If you take the example of 1984 Bhopal tragedy, certain people had the like amazing common sense at that particular time when the gas was leaking to actually put towels, wet towels on their windows, and they got saved because wet towels apparently did not let the gas come in. What will you do with pollution and dust all the time outside? How many wet towels can you put on your windows? The only thing that the mothers need to do now is take out a rally and create a movement. You push your local government to push out certain things which are creating pollution. So that is the only thing that you can do. That the only solution is political. I mean, if you talk about NEP, you guys remember when we discussed NEP, there were certain things which were just not mentioned, and the top of that list was COVID-19. In the NEP, which was launched during COVID-19, there was no mention of COVID-19 or pandemic and how the entire population needs to function in that. So at policy level, we are just not thinking about these things, and that says quite a bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Saurabh, for sharing.
Right.
Any other closing thought?
Priyank, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think I would like to reiterate on what I said, because I think that on many levels that helps us, that we need to start believing in children more when you talk about education or issues which we're currently facing, and let them evolve. They are brilliant. It's just that we hamper their, as Picasso said, every child is born genius. It's just that we do not let them be. So anyways, so I think in that way, I feel that we have to give the baton to children, that there are a lot of things they can do. And there is a huge understanding self, like it comes automatic, very naturally to children. And when we do this, we also take care of the fact that it addresses their own, builds their own understanding as well. So the children, using again the DFC model, and there are a lot of things which can be done there. We need to call for a more rigorous understanding and let the children do more of a talking, and that way I think it'll definitely solve a lot of issues.
Yeah, I just want to add last point. Basically, I'm very excited to see what the kids are going to bring to the table like 8 years from now, because we're bombarding them with things to know about, things to care about. Where at the end it really matters to what they're inspired by. That's where they make the most impact, right? So I think I'm very eager to see what what's next. What are we going to focus on? Yeah, and as Priyank said, I think kids, uh, they're amazing. I think we should just let them be, nudging them towards the right direction as opposed to guiding them, like restricting them towards the right direction. Is what I like to say. And I think pollution should really be curbed on a policy level.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your inputs. I think we don't really discuss about pollution and children on social media. So thank you for bringing your opinions on that. It was nice having you all here. Yeah, I look forward to more conversations from now onwards.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Okay.
you. This was